Human beings spent thousands of years mapping the entire globe, cataloging millions of species of insects, and splitting the subatomic particles of the universe, only to realize we still cannot accurately explain why we feel mildly uncomfortable when looking at a perfectly clean kitchen at 3 in the morning. We pride ourselves on being the absolute pinnacle of cognitive evolution on this planet, yet we are routinely brought to our knees by nameless emotional states that we simply lack the linguistic hardware to describe. This is not a minor inconvenience of vocabulary. It is a profound neurological bottleneck. Your brain is a highly sophisticated organic supercomputer, constantly receiving billions of sensory data points, processing them through a complex web of neurotransmitters, and generating incredibly nuanced psychological states that your native language completely fails to capture. If you speak English, you are trapped in a particularly sterile linguistic prison, forced to squeeze your incredibly vast technicolor emotional life into blunt, primitive boxes like happy, sad, angry, or scared. In contrast, other cultures have spent centuries identifying, naming, and dissecting these highly specific phantom sensations that you experience every single day but can never quite articulate. There is a precise, aching discomfort when you realize you can never truly know what someone else thinks of you. A sudden wave of grief when you look at an old childhood photo and realize you can never return to that physical space. And a bizarre, almost violent urge to squeeze a ridiculously cute newborn animal. You feel these things deeply, yet you remain entirely mute to their mechanics. In this exploration of the human mind, we will dissect the hidden cognitive structures behind these nameless feelings, reveal the exact biological reasons why your brain constructs them, and explore the bizarre psychological phenomena that occur when your emotions outpace your vocabulary. But first, we must examine the architectural flaw in human consciousness that makes us strangers to our own internal landscapes. The root of this systemic internal silence lies in a fierce, ongoing scientific war between two rival schools of psychological thought regarding how human emotions are actually manufactured. For decades, classical psychologists argued that humans possess a small set of universal, hardwired emotional circuits built directly into our evolutionary biology. According to this traditional view, every single person on Earth is born with the exact same pre-installed software for anger, fear, sadness, and joy, regardless of whether they grow up in a hypermodern penthouse in Manhattan or a remote nomadic tribe in the Mongolian steppe. Under this rigid model, if you feel a strange, haunting sensation that you cannot name, you are simply experiencing a chaotic, temporary glitch in your pre-wired machinery. However, a revolutionary counter-theory known as the theory of constructed emotion has completely shattered this old paradigm, suggesting that your brain does not actually have pre-programmed emotional circuits at all. Instead, your brain is a highly active, predictive organ that constructs your emotions on the fly, second by second, by combining 3 distinct ingredients: your immediate physical sensations, your past personal experiences, and the specific cultural concepts you have learned throughout your life. Think of your brain as a chef trying to make a meal out of whatever random ingredients are left in the refrigerator. If your culture has never taught you a specific concept or word for a complex emotional state, your brain literally struggles to categorize those physical sensations correctly, leaving you trapped in a state of confusing, low-grade cognitive friction. This biological phenomenon is known as high emotional granularity, and individuals who possess it can precisely identify their internal states down to the millimeter, while those with low granularity live in a perpetual muddy fog of undefined anxiety. This brings us to the fascinating, dark world of highly specific, untranslatable words that capture the precise psychological phenomena your brain frequently experiences but cannot express in English. Consider the bizarre, almost sickening sensation of looking at a beautiful landscape or experiencing a moment of profound joy, only to feel an immediate, crushing wave of sadness because you know this exact moment is already fleeting and can never be perfectly preserved. In English, you might clumsily call this bittersweet, but the Japanese language solved this neurological riddle centuries ago with the concept of mono no aware. This is not mere poetic sentimentality. It is a highly sophisticated psychological coping mechanism that acknowledges the beautiful impermanence of all things, allowing the brain to process grief and appreciation simultaneously. Meanwhile, the German language, which famously operates like a hyper-efficient emotional construction kit, gave us the term Weltschmerz. This is the acute mental exhaustion of realizing that the messy, tragic reality of the physical world will never match up to the pristine, idealistic image of the world you carry inside your head. When you scroll through the morning news and feel a heavy, paralyzing weight in your chest that is not quite depression, but feels like a profound disappointment in human existence, you are experiencing Weltschmerz. In the Portuguese-speaking world, the word saudade represents a deep, melancholic longing for an absent person, place, or time that is lost forever, often accompanied by the haunting knowledge that the object of your longing might never have actually existed in the way you remember it. These are not merely poetic descriptions. They are highly specific cognitive shortcuts that instantly relieve the brain of the immense metabolic energy required to process nameless, chaotic sensory data. The sheer economic and physical cost of leaving these complex internal states unnamed is staggeringly high, causing a massive domino effect throughout modern global society. When your brain is subjected to chronic, nameless emotional states without the relief of cognitive labeling, it activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, dumping cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. Over time, this constant, low-grade physiological stress degrades your cardiovascular system, disrupts your gut microbiome, and weakens your immune system. In the corporate world, this phenomenon manifests as a silent epidemic of burnout, where employees experience a highly specific, nameless dread that is actually a complex mixture of moral injury, systemic isolation, and existential misalignment. Because modern corporate vocabulary only allows for simplistic concepts like stress or fatigue, companies attempt to solve this profound existential crisis with superficial wellness apps and mandatory yoga sessions, completely missing the deep psychological mechanisms at play. Furthermore, the advertising industry has ruthlessly exploited this linguistic deficit for decades, intentionally triggering these nameless anxieties inside you so they can sell you a product that promises to cure them.
They evoke the sudden, disorienting feeling of watching your youth slip away, or the quiet panic of realizing you are completely disconnected from your community. And then they offer a sleek new luxury car or a sparkling beverage as the ultimate psychological antidote. Without the precise words to identify these emotional manipulations, your brain falls victim to these consumerist traps, desperately attempting to fill a highly specific, unnamed emotional void with material objects.
This leaves us with the ultimate ironic paradox of human consciousness. We are linguistic creatures who are ultimately trapped inside the silent, nonverbal prison of our own biology. The more we attempt to categorize, label, and dissect every single corner of our psychological existence, the more we realize that the human emotional spectrum is infinitely complex, constantly shifting, and forever outrunning the rigid boundaries of language. We spend our entire lives searching for a perfect, universal language that can bridge the immense gap between two human minds. Yet we remain fundamentally isolated, unable to truly transmit the exact, textured reality of our internal experiences to another person. But perhaps this structural limitation is not a design flaw of evolution, but its greatest and most beautiful trick. The fact that you can sit in a crowded room and feel a profound, hauntingly beautiful emotion that has no name, no definition, and no translation means that your inner life is still wonderfully untamed, refusing to be fully domesticated by the cold, analytical structures of human vocabulary. When you feel that sudden, nameless weight in your chest as the sun sets over a silent highway, you are not experiencing a cognitive failure or a brain glitch. You are experiencing the raw, unfiltered reality of being alive in a universe that is far too vast, far too complex, and far too beautiful to ever be captured by the crude, simplistic symbols we call words. In the end, the ultimate cure for our nameless feelings is not to find a dictionary that can define them, but to simply sit with them in the quiet dark, accepting the profound irony that the most meaningful parts of the human experience are the very ones we can never speak aloud.